Excited about demographic dividend is because when these children who go from 18 to 24 and above, they start earning. When they start earning, they buy a house, they buy curtains, they buy cars, and they buy all kinds of consumables, television, phones, and so on and so forth. That leads to increase in consumption, that leads to market, and therefore that leads to economic growth. So that's essentially the principle. So as an economist, one will be getting very excited if you have demographic dividend and if you got a younger population because they will consume more. Having said that, for a proper demographic dividend, we also need to have trained manpower. So if our manpower is not trained, pretty soon in the next 10, 15 years time, if the only value they're bringing to the economy is the muscle power, that's going to get replaced by machines. Be it robotics, be it AI, be it all kinds of machines that will be replacing them. So we really don't need sheer muscle power in the economy per se. And therefore, also the second question that comes in is that what do we mean by prosperity? Is the top line of the GDP really the means and the metrics for prosperity? The point is that the more number of people there will be more consumption of resources, and that's the only way that the GDP grows, right? So an economist will continue to be happy because there is more consumption happening, there's more mining happening, there is more pressure on agriculture because more food has to be generated to feed all these mouths that are growing. However, we are destroying the planet, and clearly this planet cannot support the 8 to 9 billion people that we expect. We are already an 8 billion population globally. Having a 9 billion population will be a huge stress. We need to start looking at economics in a significantly different manner, where growth of people and number of people should not be the basis for looking at growth. So we do know that Japan, China, Korea, they're all going into a frenzy because very few babies are getting born. And the predictions are that there'll be very few Koreans in 100 years' time. There'll be much lesser number of Chinese in 100 years' time. And the point is, so be it. The end goal of any human civilization is not to consume more from Mother Earth and show that there is a boilerplate number of GDP and we are growing in GDP. We have to look at prosperity with other numbers, and therefore fundamentally how we look at economics needs to change. Having said that, let's come down to even the basic brass tacks. If we keep chasing these numbers and we are saying that we need to grow, if we don't grow in the next 38 years, then in the comity of nations, ceteris paribus, all things being equal, if we don't grow now, then when we start growing up, we'll continue to stay a poor nation. So if we don't grow up in the next 10, 20, 25 years into a high income economy, then we'll be stuck as a low income economy without ever having the opportunity to become rich. And
Okay.
that's a dangerous situation to be in.
Okay.
And to that to happen, we need to make sure that our population is well educated, well skilled, so that they can take up the higher order activities, which have higher productivity and higher returns on the effort that they put in. So
Okay.
those are issues that we need to keep in mind. Some of the economics is suspect, but yeah, largely we are supposedly cheaper. Also, immigration is a two-way street. There is outward immigration from India. There's also a substantial immigration into India. And that's a headache that we need to manage one way or the other because these are not trained, skilled people who are coming into India. Also, having said that, the outward immigration is not necessarily just for economic opportunities. It's also for quality of life. We have seen outward immigration happening from European countries, from Italy for that matter, into US and other places because the quality of life offered is significantly better. You would see the city conditions in India. I mean, none of the cities are even close to being world class, even when compared to other developing countries such as Sri Lanka, where Colombo clearly is a far better capital city than Delhi is in terms of just livability, in terms of pollution levels, in terms of cleanliness, and so on and so forth. So it's not just about economic opportunities. Many people would like to stay back because their family is here, and family is still a big important point from an Indian and an Asian perspective. So that's a great reason for people to stay back, but they're not able to stay back not just because of economic reasons, but also livability reasons.
So then do you think 40 years is enough for India to cover and to become an economy that is sustained, but also having the quality of life which is comparable to European nations?
Absolutely. You cannot have a Viksit Bharat with Vikrit cities. We need to have Viksit cities to enable Viksit Bharat. And that's important. And we really don't see much of a progress in that direction, in spite of a 10-year-old clarion call of smart cities. It is not translated into anything substantial on the ground, to put it brutally out there. Even though I was part of the initiative, I was part of the initial conceptualization reports and documents. But unfortunately, we have to call a spade, and therefore, unless we call out the problem, we cannot solve it. The other quick problem I want to bring to the table is that even though we are saying we'll be growing in terms of population for the next 38 years, we have one of the largest population of old people. If you look at the 60 plus years, we've got 140 million people in this country who are 60 plus. We need to develop infrastructure and solutions for them, which is the same infrastructure and solutions that will be needed 30 years from now when large part of the population becomes gray. And we need to start working on those technologies and solutions now, because that's what we'll be exporting to the rest of the world. And the rest of the world will soon become short of labor. So in the next 15 years, the population of old people, that is above 60, will grow from 10% to 20%. And that's very, very substantial. So it is not that in 30 years' time there'll be a sudden drop and we'll have suddenly, the population drop happening. Yes. It's a gradual process, and we need to make sure that we have